Welcome back to another edition of the City That Never Sleeps show. I'm your host, Brandyn joined as always by my co-host, Ryan Toomey. Toomey, how you doing today?
Couldn't be better.
Love to hear that. Love to hear that. So, now that we are in the show today, doing the show, we got a lot of news to get into. There's a ton of news to get into, and I'm very intrigued to see, what's going to happen. Some of the ramifications of the news. The Jets, the quarterback search. Derek Carr off the market. Lamar Jackson. We got the tag deadline at 4 p.m. We're going to know something about him. That's on top of the Rangers news. That's on top of the Knicks on a 9-game winning streak, defeating Boston twice in that stretch. We got a lot to cover. And that's not even including the baseball futures we got. So, Toomey, I'm going to kick it to you real quick. Where do you want to start?
I guess the bad news that we heard the other day as Jets fans, maybe not bad news, but from what we've been talking about on the show, seeing Derek Carr leave and where that leaves us in the race for a quarterback as Jets fans.
Yeah, it's very interesting. And to start off, Derek Carr signed with the Saints. And it's very interesting, as we'll get into, because of what we discussed earlier on different shows. But overall, Carr signed a 4-year, $150 million deal with the Saints. $100 million of that is guaranteed over 3 years. And essentially, the third year can be voided, really can be like $67 million over 2 years. First reactions to that, to me. When you saw that news hit, what did you think?
I was shocked. I woke up, saw it, and wow. I guess the two best options were for sure the Jets or the Saints. And I would have loved to see where the Jets were if the Jets even had an offer out there toward them. I'm guessing not. But when it comes down to it, Derek Carr's on a Saints team that has a very wide open door in that NFC South. And I think that was something that looked exciting to Carr too as well. When you look at it, that NFC South is still probably the worst division in football, like we saw last season. And as a quarterback, I think I'd be excited to go down and be like, hey, I got a free shot to win a division here, or an easy shot, let's say, because nothing's free in the NFL, obviously. But when it comes down to it, it's really good to see because those teams are abysmal that the Saints are going to have to deal with.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very easy path for Carr. And it was always a big option. It was always something that was rumored. I mean, the Raiders and Saints were talking in the first place about Carr. But to focus this on a Jets frame of mind, essentially, Carr, all the rumors were kind of trickling out about, he favors New York. He leans towards New York. He wants to... Well, we're going to finish this Carr talk. Something just broke. We'll get to that in 1 second. I'm sure Toomey saw the same thing. Derek Carr, do you even want to... I feel like
just jump to it. He's already a Saint. Doesn't matter.
We're gonna circle back to the Derek Carr news. But 4 minutes into the show, I think that's got to be a new record. We got some breaking news. The Ravens have placed the non-exclusive franchise tag on Lamar Jackson.
We were discussing that before.
That's big. That's gigantic. We got some comments in the chat. Rob, hope you're doing well, man. Atlanta's going to get Lamar. They are one of the teams that I would be, circling with a bright red marker, potentially going after Lamar Jackson. But this is gigantic. I've said this probably four times already, but essentially, as Mike Garafolo tweeted, the non-exclusive franchise tag comes with a $32.4 million salary for 2023. But more importantly, it allows Lamar Jackson to negotiate with other teams. That's the difference between the exclusive tag and the non-exclusive tag. We've seen this with a guy like, for example, in the past, before all the legal issues, Deshaun Watson. Deshaun Watson had that exclusive tag placed on it. He wanted the big deal. The exclusive tag means no team can communicate with that player. We've seen this with running backs, receivers, edge players. When you get that exclusive tag, the only team you can negotiate with is the team that you are signed to. This is a much different scenario. And I think this stems from, and Toomey, you can correct me if I'm wrong with this, I think it stems from the fact that Lamar wants that fully guaranteed deal. The Ravens are essentially saying, hey, if someone wants to pay you that type of money, and I will get into my opinions on that, go ahead. We can either match or we can let you walk and we're going to get 2 first-round picks in return. Crazy that they didn't put the exclusive on. And I understand the exclusive carries a higher tag, but this is Lamar Jackson we're talking about. This is the guy that is like the centerpiece of the Ravens offense. Without him, they're in trouble. This has huge ramifications on the rest of the league.
No, it's going to come down to it. So just 2 first-round picks, you're saying? That's all someone has to give up?
Mm-hmm. Just 2. Just 2 first-round picks.
Picks. Very valuable.
That's if the Ravens don't match.
Match the deal that was offered.
Match the offer, yes.
Okay. Wow. Yeah, that's something. There's going to be a lot of talks. And just like Rob put in the chat before, I mean, Atlanta's a team that they're down to just Ritter down there right now, and I could absolutely see them being like, all right, we have an all right team around us right now. Let's give up 2 first-round picks and offer him the boatload of money. I guess the Lamar Jackson market's going to start to open now, and we'll be seeing rumors all the time with teams interested.
Yeah,
right.
So
he's the biggest quarterback on the market now.
On the spot, right? Who are the teams that would potentially do that? I'm immediately throwing Atlanta into there. Be an amazing landing spot for him. Carolina is going to be in on this. Because, yes, they've gone after veterans before. Lamar Jackson's a different story. And all they have to do is give up 2 first and money. We know the Panthers owner is willing to do that. Honestly, I could see the Jets inquiring now. Because I get it. We're going to get to the Jets portion of the show in a little bit. But despite what their actions have shown today, you'd be a fool to not inquire on Lamar Jackson. You'd be a fool. If you inquired on Derek Carr and actually met with him multiple times, why wouldn't you do the same with Lamar? I don't care how invested you are in Aaron Rodgers. You're doing yourself a disservice. On top of that, maybe a team like Tampa Bay, but Tampa Bay might be more towards that rebuild side than that. Maybe the Giants. Maybe they're like, you know what? Rather get Lamar than Daniel Jones, but you still got to build that roster. So is that contract feasible? Maybe a team like Tennessee. Maybe another NFC South team. Like, I think we went over all of them, actually. Yeah. Panthers, Bucks, Falcons. So that entire division. Could you see
interesting enough, could you see a team that's looking for a quarterback in the draft?
Indianapolis.
Give up that.
Right. Exactly. Like Indy or a team like Vegas.
For a lock of a guy like Lamar Jackson, it really puts these teams on the spot to think about what potentially their team could look like with an MVP quarterback, as we've seen already. It's a lot more safe. It's a lot more safe than going with the draft for sure, but you do have to give up a pretty good amount for it.
This in my eyes, this blows up the rest of the quarterback market because Lamar Jackson, like you said, is more of a sure thing than a CJ Stroud, a Bryce Young, an Anthony Richardson, a Will Levis. And like, for example, this is the team I keep circling back to, Carolina. Carolina has a very good roster. Carolina, if they got the right quarterback, I think could be a threat in the NFC, especially considering how weak that conference is. You add Lamar Jackson to that team with that defense, him actually having a number one receiver in DJ Moore, Terrence Marshall's a very nice, depth number 2, number 3 guy. You add another guy in like the second round, you're a contender.
We saw them at the end of the year last year. They pulled it together, and they beat some good teams and almost made it to the playoffs.
Exactly. Atlanta, Lamar Jackson throwing the Kyle Pitts, rocking those all black Atlanta Falcons uniforms. Selfishly, that would probably become my NFC team because, Kyle Pitts, Drake London, you got Algier. I mean, Don makes a great point, which Don, how you doing? He said he wouldn't mind looking at Lamar. Detroit would be in a fantastic landing spot. I know they're high on Goff, but that team would be really fun with Lamar. There's just a lot of options here because, and I want to make sure I have the right person. Josh Norris tweeted that it was 32 million versus 45 million. So the non-exclusive was at 32 and the exclusive was at 45. Gigantic difference.
Yeah.
But I'm very intrigued that Baltimore didn't want to just lock him up and didn't want to make him exclusive. Is Baltimore calling Lamar Jackson bluff here? I would argue that they probably are. There's an argument to be made. Okay, you think you can go get that type of money? Go try. But at the same time here, you're running a gigantic risk. You may go from a division and conference competitor with Lamar to, hey, we got to rebuild, and you're picking 20th something in the drafts. You're basically going to borderline tank the season. And how do all those veterans, Marlon Humphrey, we've seen Rashad Bateman tweeting at his offensive coordinator and the GM pissed off. The other defensive veterans on the Ravens that thought they are a contender. How do they feel if Lamar Jackson and the organization just treats him wrong? You're running a gigantic risk, not just on the field, but off the field if you're Baltimore. And I am very intrigued by this. I'll be honest with you. This jumps to the number 1 spot of NFL storylines for me. Like, this is even bigger than the Jets quarterback scenario for me because this one has so much more of a ripple effect on the entire NFL. So much more. And you can't deny that because the bidding war that could ensue for Lamar Jackson could be legendary.
I'm confident saying that Lamar, that's the last thing Lamar wanted to see from this franchise. He's done so much, but so little for them with his time there. But like you said, they're running a very big risk right now. They're one step closer to having a contender and then one step closer to starting a rebuild.
Also, this is the other thing. Does Lamar even go back if the Ravens match the deal? And I get it. They're paying him at that point, right?
Yeah.
I get it. Lamar's like, you borderline almost let me walk. And I'm not saying that this is a realistic thing, but you have to look at these options. You have to look at these scenarios because they're real now. They're possible. This is not a what if the Ravens place the non-exclusive tag on Lamar. This is they did. some of the comments in the chat. We got, if the Giants, I'm calling the Ravens about Rashad Bateman. 1,000% would be a great addition to that room. Got to see what happens with the Lamar scenario before you do that, though. But I think you could probably get him even if Lamar stays. Brian says, if I'm looking at any wide receiver option, wide receiver one options if I'm the Giants. Yeah, I'm just sidebar. The Giants wide receiver need well documented, very big, and it's something that they definitely need to improve on. But
teams would be willing to pay him 45, 50.
Yeah. We see it in the NFL. Think about how big of a need quarterback is. Think about how many teams are ready. And just preparing you guys, this show is going to be all over the place because of the breaking news that's probably going to be happening. Think about all the teams that need quarterbacks in the league. Think about the Jets, and we're getting there in a little bit, I promise. But think about the Jets that have literally talked and inquired on almost every veteran quarterback. Think about the teams that are willing to jump 2 spots and give up 2 first-round picks for quarterbacks in this class. Albert Breer just tweeted, Ravens QB Lamar Jackson also essentially controls his trade market now. Baltimore can't trade his rights unless he signs his franchise tender. And right now, there's really no motivation for him to do that. Next week should be very interesting.
I mean, it would be very remiss of us to say that the Jets are not going to be knocking on that door to have discussions.
Yeah, I'm thinking they might have to turn the private jet around.
Yeah, right? May have someone else go talk to, I don't know. It's curious to see now because they're put in this position where they were all in on Rodgers, and now they got to start sharing the love a little more too. It's they're going to get through with that meeting in Rodgers, and that could be the decision for the Jets right there. They like what they hear.
Yeah, and man, the Browns essentially played 3D chat. Oh, well, okay. Like I said, guys, this show's going to be all over the place. The Atlanta Falcons will not be pursuing QB Lamar Jackson, per sources. This is from Diana Rossini of ESPN. Well, all right. There goes that.
Surprising, but it is very early, I guess. It is a somewhat reliable source. You never know until it happens, though.
What's his market then? Who's going after him?
I mean, we talked about some teams previously, but
that I'm skeptical on that.
Could Lamar end up like no teams go after him? He just decides, hey, I'm going to sit out. Is that a possibility here?
It is. It's a huge possibility, but and by the way, excuse me, the deadline, or not the deadline, for the Lamar situation now, teams who want to offer Lamar a deal can do so starting next Wednesday, March 15th at 4 p.m. Eastern. Then the Ravens would have 5 days to match the offers, or he is gone for 2 first-rounders. Man, you want to know what's hilarious? And I think this is going to be, unless something pops up in the next minute, which, hey, everything's essentially popping up today. I'm not going to lie. Number one, I think that report is correct as of now. I do think the Falcons will still be in on him. I truly do. I'm not disputing the report, but I think the Falcons would be very remiss to not pursue Lamar. I think this may open the door for the Jets.
And I guess news is going to start to come out about that after they meet with Rodgers.
Yeah.
They're not going to push anything out before they get done with this meeting and see how that goes.
Here's the thing. It depends on, because And you know what? This is a perfect transition because Lamar now non-exclusive tag. Derek Carr, as we unfortunately, I'm sorry, Derek, we you kind of got overshadowed a little bit today. Derek Carr signed with the Saints. So at that time, Carr leaving and not signing with the Jets, which in the moment gave the Jets zero leverage with Aaron Rodgers. To the point where, you know, all Jets fans were like, oh, if we don't get Rodgers, Carr's the fallback option. Carr's the fallback option. Well, Rodgers waited too long, and Carr signed. Carr went to the team that, honestly, probably seemed like the most likely right off the bat. He went to the team with the easier division, the easier conference. I wasn't surprised by the move. On the other hand, this was the risk that you had to take if you wanted Rodgers in the Jets case, which I do think is the right move. Aaron Rodgers is a much better quarterback than Derek Carr. But you ran the risk of if Rodgers, because he is Aaron Rodgers and we all know how he acts, if he decided to drag this on a little bit longer, you were going to miss out on Carr. And that brought the Jets to a point where now it's Rodgers or bust. And that's where the question of the day came into play, right? The Jets will draft a quarterback, agree or disagree. We had some replies to the chat where
I think I saw mostly disagrees.
Yeah. We got Brian disagreeing to the poll. I think the Jets go get Rodgers and have Rodgers groom Wilson. We have Pete disagreeing to the poll as well. It's just like in that case, and this is how I was looking at it on what do you call it? After Carr signed. If you miss out on Rodgers and you're stuck in the Garoppolo Brissett tier, I'm trading up for Richardson or Stroud. And we talked about this on last week's show. I love Bryce Young, but would Joe Douglas and Robert Saleh sell or put their jobs on the line for a guy that is undersized? And as we've seen with Kyler Murray a little bit, the undersized guys do get banged up. You don't know. I think they would rather bank on the guy that has the higher floor and the higher ceiling in the sense of projection, size, all of that. This throws a little bit of a wrench into that idea because now the Jets are on a plane going to meet with Aaron Rodgers. They're with Woody Johnson, Robert Saleh, Nathaniel Hackett. I'm pretty sure Joe Douglas as well. They're flying out to meet Aaron Rodgers. The fact that this Lamar news leaked, you could argue, and it's not certain, but you could argue that the Jets gained a little bit more leverage. Before I get into that, Toom, do you think the Jets did gain more leverage in their pursuit of Rodgers now, as opposed to literally, I'd say, 5 hours ago?
I guess in the sense that there's another good option on the table that would actually make an impact on the team, I believe. You know what? It's a weird situation because Rodgers, you come to terms with it where that Rodgers, you're going to have to make a trade, right? He's not a free agent. Another trade. You're probably going to give up less than what you'd have to give up. You'd have to give up a lot for Lamar Jackson. And that holds its own risk as well. A guy that we've seen with injuries. He's going to want a lot of money, and you're also going to give up those 2 first-round picks. So maybe a little leverage. I don't know, but it's not really – I don't think it's anything serious at all.
Another report from another ESPN reporter, the Commanders will not be pursuing Lamar Jackson either. So there's another team out of his market. I'm personally of the belief that you are now in a leverage game with Rodgers, to where if Rodgers wants to come here and Green Bay is being stingy, number one, there's, as opposed to the Lamar market, at least what I thought, there's not a lot of teams for the Rodgers market. It's the Jets and maybe some other team completely under the radar. Or he retires, or he goes back to Green Bay. I don't think Green Bay necessarily wants him back. That's a different discussion. But the Packers are kind of backed into a little bit of a corner if Rodgers decides, I want to be in New York. In that scenario, Jets aren't going to have to give up too much draft capital. Jets aren't going to have to blow up the, as we say in baseball, blow up the farm system to go after Aaron Rodgers. In all likelihood, probably giving up a 2 and maybe a first that can convey if he comes back next year. So maybe like 2 2s or something like that. Now you throw in the Lamar wrench into this. If Green Bay tries to hold you hostage, Jets could go, we'll go after Lamar Jackson and have fun dealing with Aaron Rodgers. Have fun not getting anything for your guy. And like I said, I'm not saying this is a 1-to-1, oh, this is exactly how it's going to play out. But if the Jets decide to jump in that Lamar Jackson market, you have created more leverage for yourself. You now have another option. That's not counting the options Jets fans don't want to talk about, the Jimmy Garoppolo's, the Jacoby Brissett's, the Ryan Tannehill's if they come available. You now have another top-tier option that you can leverage with. Do I personally think the Jets end up Lamar? Probably not. I probably think Rodgers is more likely in this scenario. And I truly think that he brings a lot to the table. We got Derpy Entertainment. Imagine being the Jets hype that Brett Favre 2.0. Well, the guy did just win back-to-back MVPs before last season, and he would be probably the Jets' best quarterback since, probably the best Jets quarterback in my lifetime. So, yeah, I think fans have a right to be excited about that. But circling back to the question of the day, which if you guys have a response to that, leave that in the chat. I don't think they draft a quarterback unless it gets to DEFCON 1. Unless they miss on every single option, you're stuck with a Brissett, and we got to save our job. Jacoby Brissett isn't going to cut it. That's where I think the Jets have traded up to number 4 or number 5 to draft X quarterback or to draft Y quarterback. That's kind of where I stand with that. Where are you with that, with the whole Rodgers leverage situation and potentially drafting a quarterback?
Yeah, I agree with you that the Jets shouldn't even look at quarterbacks, even the top ones. I mean, maybe ones at the bottom, unless it gets to that situation where there's no chance of getting a Rodgers, no chance of getting a Lamar. I think the worst case scenario for the Jets is they go after one of those quarterbacks, like you said before, Jimmy G, Brissett, Tannehill. I think that it gets to the point they get one of those guys, Douglas, Saleh, no matter the great things they did, their job's at risk. Because there's no way that a team in the AFC with a quarterback like that makes any headway. There's no way they can win anything. I don't see it at all, let alone conference, a division, especially with the Bills in that division. And even though there's a lot of risk with drafting a quarterback, maybe they go after a guy at the bottom. We've talked about on the show, Dugan, Bennett even. There are guys that you can draft late in rounds with picks that, you already got the guys you've wanted. Then maybe go with one of those guys. But going after a top guy, I don't see it being a possibility. Not one bit. I think it'd be bad for the franchise to even try and go after another early QB pick. We've seen how that's gone. I'm a guy that likes to look at trends, and it's a bad trend for Jets first-round quarterbacks in the past.
Yeah, I agree, but and I'm not going to say that, oh my goodness, I want the Jets to draft a quarterback no matter what. That is literally a worst-case scenario.
Yeah, I'm not high on Richardson either.
I'm going to have to disagree. That's the guy I would want to take a swing on, just traits, potential. And worst case scenario, he sits behind Brissett or the veteran for 5-6 games as he gets his feet wet in the NFL structure. But I don't want the Jets to go that route right now.
No.
I want them to get a veteran that can play now. And
Yeah.
I want them to get one of the Rodgers and Lamar. We got Jeff commenting as we spoke about. Lamar will not be pursued by Falcons. More Jets leverage. It's very intriguing. It's very interesting because if the Commanders bowed out, which that's one of the teams that slipped our minds, the Commanders definitely would have been one of the teams. Atlanta was like the red flashing sign of, hey, this is the team that's going to go after Lamar Jackson. The Jet there is a pathway for the Jets here. There is a route for the Jets to pursue him. Now, obviously, the contract stuff comes into play here. How much are you willing to pay him? The guarantees, all of that. But it's very, very intriguing with how everything's shaping up. And I guess that brings us to the Rodgers scenario a little bit. How do you think that's going to end up? As I said today, they're flying out to meet Aaron Rodgers. They are the Jets brass. This would include, obviously, the GM, the head coach, Hackett, who is very close with Rodgers. Where do you stand with that?
It shows that the Jets are very serious, like we've known this whole time, for going after Aaron Rodgers. And again, like I said before, I don't see them even putting out a statement on their beliefs on where they see themselves in the Lamar Jackson debacle we've seen unfold until this meeting's over. And this is a good sign. When you are a guy and you have the whole front office or the mostly of the important pieces of a front office come to see you, I think that's something Rodgers is going to love to see. Rodgers has always had issues we've seen with maybe head coaches or front office pieces in the past with his time in Green Bay, and seeing this could be a shining light for him. Be like, hey, I appreciate what you guys have done. I'd love to join you guys. Make it happen. I believe that's how this is going to end up. And maybe and if that's the case, then what's going to happen to Lamar Jackson? It takes a number of teams out. I think the Jets go to Green Bay today and make leeway in this deal and get something done with Aaron Rodgers. That's what I believe.
That's the way I'm leaning too. I think there's too many, not loopholes, but you're paying so much guaranteed money to Lamar. You're having to give up the draft capital. You know, you got to ensure that Baltimore can't match that, and making sure you're not losing out on Rodgers. I personally think Rodgers is the option. You're not going to give up as much draft capital. Not age isn't really on your side with him, but you know, that was going to be the case with most quarterbacks not named Lamar Jackson. Rodgers is a former MVP, and I'm in agreement with you. I think ultimately Rodgers is the Jets quarterback at this point. The leaks they've been slow, but they've been steady. They're coming out more and more. Now, I'm interested to see how much that changes with the Lamar news. I don't know how much it does, but I think you're going to see a bit of a shift with that. But ultimately, I do think the Jets end up with Aaron Rodgers, and I do think that they are going to get a star quarterback, a veteran quarterback, ultimately, but I do think they end up with a star. On a sidebar here, I think it's hilarious that Jets players are tweeting out their support. You got Mekhi Becton tweeting out the what was up from I think that Scary Movie. You got Sauce Gardner, which let me find the tweet real fast. Sauce Gardner tweeted that, Aaron Rodgers, I promise if you become a Jet, I won't pick you off in practice and I'll burn the cheesehead. You had Garrett Wilson and Will Parks basically being like, damn, can't believe Derek Carr didn't want to come to the Jets. It's so obvious that these guys know what their quarterback situation was and that they know they need to improve it. And like I ultimately feel bad for Zach Wilson and the rest of the guys in that quarterback room who are probably just staring there like come on, man. Like, this hurts.
These were his boys for a while, and they're switching up real fast. They want to see some change. You know what? It shows that they know they got something good on that team, though. They know that they have a stacked roster who's ready to compete, and they just want that one missing piece. Well, not one, there's a lot of pieces, but that big piece. Every team needs their quarterback, and no matter if they go Rodgers, Lamar, they'll find him there. It's funny, they were tweeting at Carr, too. We saw that. Sauce Gardner and Carr were, at least Sauce was saying a lot. Sauce tweets a lot, though. Sauce is very active on Twitter.
Sauce is a great media personality
He is.
From a player.
He really is.
Very, very, very good. Yeah, I just, I'm just very intrigued. And it's very interesting to see what's going on with the Jets. But the funny thing is, there's a deadline for the other New York team that is quickly approaching. That would be the New York Giants and Daniel Jones. So, Toom, have you seen the latest on Jones?
I believe I thought, I don't know, connection might have been bad in Utah, but what changed? Anything?
Well, he's still apparently firm in his want of $45 million.
Yeah. Okay.
Apparently, I obviously sources leak all different types of stuff. This may be the Giants trying to make Jones seem crazy. Apparently, he might want more than $45 million per year, which we had that whole discussion last week.
Yeah.
If you guys want to go back and listen to that, we got Don in the chat saying Mike White probably thinks this is the thanks I get for stepping up for Wilson. But, a leak saying that Jones wants more than $45 million. Apparently, there was obviously the one report floats out that the Giants are making progress with Jones. Yesterday, a report comes out. Yeah, the Giants and Jones, the talks have stalled. And now you're quickly approaching the franchise tag deadline for the New York Giants, which, I'll be completely honest, that's DEFCON 1 if I'm the Giants, in the sense of what that means for your other superstar offensive player that's a free agent. And it's a stretch calling Jones a superstar, but he's a quarterback and he played very well. So he's borderline in that range. But if you can't hammer something out with Jones before the 4:00 deadline, you're probably going to lose Saquon. Because, yes, the talk is always about, you can always find running backs. You can always find running backs. Here's the other side of that. Someone's always going to overpay those running backs, especially a guy like Saquon Barkley. What do you think about that?
Well, I just want to touch on something real fast. There's no way Lamar Jackson plays this season if there's guys like Daniel Jones, Geno Smith, Derek Carr making more money than him. That's absurd. But That's a side note. But when it comes to Saquon, I think Saquon could be a little hurt from the Daniel Jones news, as he's saying. I think he loves his time in New York. And him and Daniel Jones are boys, too. For him to be like, you're going to take more money, so I have to go. That's not good. And if it comes down to that, he's definitely going to leave. I'm on the one on that train, though, for, hey, take whatever running back you want and make some. If you give a good line in front of a running back, they're going to put production in. But I think Saquon's gone. Yeah, if this deal's done. Daniel Jones, there's no way he should be making more than 40. I thought it was crazy saying more than 35, more than 30. There's no way he should be making this much money.
It's crazy. It's kind of, I don't want to say ridiculous, but
no, it is ridiculous. It really is.
Yeah. So Ted in the chat says now, not nowadays. Dave Gettleman isn't a GM for another team who will pay Barkley. It's not even that someone's going to overpay Barkley. They just may pay more than what the Giants are willing to give him. Like, they may go from 10, the Giants may want to pay him 10 mil per year or 12 mil. Team may offer him 13 or 14. It's not out of this world, but if he's priced out of what the Giants want to pay him, there's a good shot he leaves if he doesn't get franchise tag. And I was reading something the other day, and I forget who it was. I wish I could give the proper credit, but it was a fantastic point, and it really makes you think, because there's this sense of this in other positions in football and also other sports. There's no mid-tier quarterback market. There's no mid-tier quarterback market or contract. Every quarterback contract just stack. Like, you had Derek Carr as a top 5 paid quarterback, like, very recently. You have guys like Jared Goff in the past being the highest paid quarterbacks in the league, or guys of his caliber. And the number just keeps going up. Like, for example, and you just touched on this, you have guys like Daniel Jones that might be getting paid more than Patrick Mahomes. And yes, Mahomes took a team-friendly deal, but it just doesn't add up the way you want it to. And it's very, very interesting when it comes to the Giants, because we've talked about this. The Giants still need additions. This is not a complete roster by any stretch of the imagination. This is not a team that can afford, and I may be sounding sacrilegious here, this is not a team that can afford to lose Saquon Barkley. It's not. Not until you add the necessary weapons on the outside. Not until you revamp that wide receiver. Not until you figure out who that Barkley replacement would even be. Because that guy's not on the roster right now. I can tell you that for a fact. You're not replacing him with Matt Breida or any of these guys that were on the roster. I get it. You can say, oh, you can just draft a guy. Are you drafting one of the most dynamic running backs in the league in round 2? Maybe, but that's not good asset management if you're the Giants, because you probably have more needs. If I'm the Giants, I'm going wide receiver, linebacker, my first 2 picks. Running back isn't even a thought till round 3. And even then, you're not getting all-around talent in Barkley. Yes, more cost-efficient rookie contract, but you're losing what could have been considered the engine in your offense from last season. Daniel Jones' demands are running a huge, huge risk. And I'll be real, this could all be a moot point in 15 minutes. This could be a moot point. Jones could sign that extension. But he hasn't yet. And the minute that franchise tag is applied to him, number one, there's no guarantee you're banging out an extension with him. Number 2, you're now letting Saquon Barkley hit the open market. It's the worst case scenario for the Giants. And it's the worst case scenario for them to build off an incredible first year under Brian Daboll.
He's the quarterback that deserves the non-exclusive tag.
Oh, that's a bit of a hot take right there.
More than Lamar.
Okay. So why if you're the Giants, why would you want to give Jones the non-exclusive?
I don't think anyone's going to go after him. I really don't. I don't know why a team, I think someone could draft him. That's just, I firmly believe that Daniel Jones has not proved himself to be that he's deserving of all this money. Yes, he played good. He got a team to the playoffs in a conference that was weak. I think we could fairly say that. If he's a quarterback in the AFC, he's 8th best quarterback in the AFC?
Mm-hmm.
And not even including NFC? I mean, he's top 15 for sure. You definitely make a case for top 10, but he's not a guy that's deserving of this money. And it's going to hurt the team in the end. It truly is. As a Giants fan, I'd be upset to see him getting this much money.
Yeah, I mean, I guess mine's more of a hot take. I think someone would pay Jones that amount. And then you're getting 2 first-round picks for him, which then you can use to get your next guy. But the only reason I think you want to give him the non-exclusive is you lose Jones, you're basically tanking your season. Because then you're having to trade up. Remember, the Giants were a playoff team. You're picking in you're picking in the 20s.
No,
you're not getting Stroud. You're not getting Young, Stroud, Levis, Richardson. You're not getting any of them. And let's be real, we haven't talked to prospects yet today. The quarterback class falls off hard after that.
Yes.
Very
maybe a
hard.
little diamond in the rough, but no, for sure.
Yeah. We got Ted in the comments saying Washington Commanders could definitely go after him. Commanders are apparently out on Jackson. And like I said with the Falcons, I don't know. That can change, but I don't think that. Well, personally, I don't understand the Commanders or Falcons not going after Lamar Jackson. That's completely just shocking to me. Number two, I don't know. Like they would be a great fit. They have fun weapons. They have, a improving defense. They have a decent coaching staff. Why wouldn't you go after him? You're going to rely on Sam Howell? I think it's a terrible idea. Same thing with the Falcons. You're going to rely on Desmond Ridder in a division that's wide open? Not necessarily for Commanders, but in the NFC South, doesn't make sense to me. We got Vlad saying Jets just need to go for Lamar. Agent, I don't know what you were aiming for, but I agree. I think the Jets should definitely pursue Lamar. Jets go for that. Texans draft and should sign Jimmy. Let Jimmy go down first while their rookie learns. That's a great point, and I want to touch on that once we get to a bit of the draft stuff. But especially with the type of combine Anthony Richardson had, I think that'd be a very good route for the Texans if they want to take Anthony Richardson either number 2 or if they trade up in a scenario where they do at number 1 overall. But to really wrap up the Giants' point, Toom, what do you think the end result is for them?
Seems like it's going to lean toward they get Jones. They try and build a receiving core around him, and Saquon walks.
Yeah, I don't think that Jones is going to get the extension done. I mean, I feel like you need to hear something.
He's got 13 minutes, right? Sign tag.
Yeah, 13 minutes. Vlad says that he was saying they should go after Lamar when he gets tagged. 100% agree with that. I think it'd be stupid if they didn't pursue Lamar in any capacity. I just, I don't know. I don't know. I don't think he signs the extension, because if he's truly not backing down off the 45, you're in trouble.
Yeah.
You're in trouble because
you truly are.
Does Jones even sign the tag at that point? Because he doesn't have the extension, because he knows that he only had one good season and that success is so fickle in the NFL. That's the other side of it. I've always said I want guys to get their money, but at what point does going after money truly hurt your team building?
I still think he needs one more year just to prove what he can do for this franchise.
Yeah.
Like
that, and that's where the franchise tag comes into play.
Exactly.
But I don't think Jones plays on it. I don't think Jones plays on the franchise tag, which is completely opposite of everything you've heard about the guy. But look, everyone's got to get paid. Everyone wants to get paid, and that's the honest truth. But what ends up happening, I guess we will wait and find out. We are down to 11 minutes. Going to read some of the comments before the deadline hits. I guess we're going to talk about this until the deadline, and after the deadline, we'll talk some combine and move on to some different sports, because football is dominating the day today. But we got some other stuff to cover. We got Niall saying this would be good for New York. I'm assuming this is referring to the Lamar Jackson scenario. We got Vlad saying if you're giving up draft picks for a $60 million quarterback, they might as well have a shelf life of more than 1 to 2 years. I don't see the appeal with Rodgers. If Rodgers doesn't show up in the playoffs and is on his way out. You see, I agree with that, but it's also you're giving up so much more for Lamar than what you probably are giving up for Rodgers, because you're not just devoting so much of your cap to Lamar. You're also giving up 2 first-round draft picks. On the other hand, though, your window is completely open for, I'd say, the next 6 years? You're one of the better teams in the AFC because of Lamar Jackson. So it's that give and take. You're going for the shorter window, not giving up as much draft capital, hoping to find your next guy if you go with Rodgers. Lamar giving up way more capital up front, having a more long-term tenure, but your window's also open longer, and you're competing more, and you are a destination for a longer period of time. We got Vlad also saying that Jones is a $30 million quarterback at best. We got Niall saying Jets are not doing anything to pick him up. We shall see. I'm interested to see how the Rodgers scenario plays out. But, that's very important. It's very important how that plays out because, the Rodgers thing goes south. Jets could be all in on Lamar Jackson by tomorrow. You never know. You truly never know. We got Ted saying, what do you think about Sauce trying to get Rodgers to come to the Jets? Me and Toomey talked about this a little bit earlier in the show. It just shows how important these guys know quarterback is. And it shows that they know they need a really good and want a really good quarterback on their roster. And that the current guys in that quarterback room aren't getting the job done.
I like it when a guy like Sauce comes out too. I mean, even though it's going to be a second year, he's their guy. He's probably a top, what would you say, top 3, top 5 player on that team? Top 3, top 2?
Sauce?
If he's not 1.
Like top 3.
Yeah. So yeah. I like guys like that trying to be active. He wants to see the team wins and he knows what the team needs to win. I like seeing a top guy on the team reaching for players.
So I'm going to switch it up a little bit. Toom, I'm going to let you take the next comment. Next comment.
Let's see what we got. Better off trading 2 first rounds for a proven QB than gambling multiple first rounds over the years on QBs. Look at the Niners. Makes sense. I think the Niners are in a tough situation with QBs, but we've seen what they've gone with it. Purdy has proved that defense is so stacked when it comes down to it that they just need a game manager who can really pick things up. I think they have a chance against the Eagles that game that they lost just because of all the injuries they had to deal with. But no, it makes sense. I would if take this back a couple years. If this was 1 or 2 years, Rodgers have 3-4 years. We're talking different story. But it's 1 to 2 years with Rodgers. So it's going to come down to what he can do in those 2 years if he signs with the Jets. Niners dropped 3 first and a third for Lance. Lance was a project QB with almost no experience in college. That makes sense too. They took a real risk with Lance. I'm curious to see what their decision is next year. Do they go with Purdy? Do they go with Lance? I mean, they're in a good situation, I think, nonetheless with them, better than most teams. But we'll have to see. Lance didn't really get to prove himself because he got injured. But it makes sense. I agree with what's going on. And what news do we have from ESPN?
I'm assuming that's probably the Lamar news, the Rodgers news,
yes.
The everything news.
Yeah, the everything. Everyone's talking about it.
Oh man, it's just, you want to know what's funny? And this is just the life of sport, of dealing with sports. You plan out an entire show. You plan out a block of time where, everything's going to happen. You talk about this, you talk about that. And then all of a sudden you look over your shoulder and there's just the giant bomb just dropping. And it's like, well, we got to talk about this now for the majority of our show. And
I'm curious to see, wasn't there news the other day about like the Commanders being interested in Lamar?
Well, we were both wrong, my friend. At 3:54, the Giants have a deal in place with Daniel Jones.
Maybe we weren't wrong, but I think they're wrong. What do they got?
Numbers have not come out
Okay.
yet. This is from Ryan Dunleavy of the New York Post.
So not
So
a tag, a deal.
a deal. They got
Oh.
it. They got a deal done. I'm excited to see what the numbers are. I'm very excited.
Now that's interesting.
Man, the hits just keep on coming today, man.
It's a good Tuesday.
It's a great Tuesday. I got to see what the numbers are.
That should come out pretty shortly, maybe in the next 5, 10, 15.
So Ted just posted an interesting comment. Jets get Rodgers. Dayball says, look what I did with Daniels. He was a turnover. Daniel Jones, he was a turnover machine who's been in the league since 2019. Just look at what I could do with Zach Wilson. He's younger. I'll be real with you. Giants offer anything around the third round pick. I'm saying yes before the sentence is even over and being like, Zach Wilson, you're gone. If I can get anything of value, and by value I mean fourth round or under, as in like fourth, third, second, I'm getting rid of him because I've said this before. The Jets can do this all they want. They can say all they want. Zach Wilson's not playing another game for them unless something catastrophic happens.
And if he does, I'm guessing he's not going to be good. We've seen it before. It's tough for guys to come back, especially from what Zach Wilson had to go through. We've said it before. We'll say it again. We were at that game against Jacksonville, and he got booed off the field by an entire stadium in crap weather for a guy who can't throw. So there's no way he could have success, I think, and come back with that. Obviously, there's a chance, but I just don't think that would happen. I think it'd be best for him to go somewhere else and just restart.
That game was just ridiculous. That was the worst game I've ever seen in person. So the 1-2 combo has hit. Daniel Jones 4-year contract extension.
Okay.
And the Giants are placing the franchise tag on Saquon Barkley. So the best case scenario that we discussed has happened. Yeah. Now, the important part becomes, and we are still waiting on the exact numbers for Daniel Jones. We have the exact numbers, but I want to say this sentence real quick. Now the part comes, does Saquon Barkley play on the franchise tag? I'm going to lean towards no. And I have the numbers pulled up if you want me to talk, or do you want to discuss Barkley real quick?
I want to hear those numbers.
So, all right, that's some agent speak. Gonna find a different tweet. So 4-year, $160 million contract with $35 million in incentives. So, just looking at that real quick. 40 per year.
Yep. 40 per year.
Right in the middle. As these things usually go, man. Oh, 45. Oh, 35. What are we going to land? Right in the middle.
Right in the middle. 40.
Right in the middle. And I am sure, we don't have the full details. I am sure there are incentives for him to get up to the 45 number in certain years. I am sure of it. Like that just seems so likely.
The quarterback out of Duke gets the contract he wanted. That's 4 for 160 with incentives. How much guaranteed? Yeah. When's that coming out?
Haven't seen that yet.
I'm curious to see that number.
It's just like, oh man.
I mean, it makes sense.
I mean, 35 per year, or not 35, 40 per year is very expensive for Daniel Jones. But, yeah. So, no, that's how, okay. This tweet makes it more clear. So, it is 4-year 160
Yes.
plus $35 million in incentives. So that really potentially makes the full value, if he fulfills that contract, 4 years, 195.
Close to 50.
That's
Right there
ridiculous.
next to 50.
With the incentives, that's ridiculous.
Those better be some crazy incentives.
Yeah. Oh, man. I just...
And now, how does the tag work for running backs? I'm curious. What do you
He's
have?
It's $10 million. So if Barkley plays on the tag, he'll be making $10 million this
What
year.
do teams have to give up for that?
It's exclusive.
Oh, it is exclusive.
They gave him the exclusive tag.
I did not know that. Wow.
Man, it's just
interesting stuff from the G-men.
New York sports is popping right now.
It truly is,
to say the least. Well, we've officially spent a little bit over an hour talking about New York. We got some comments. Vlad says, "I guess the Giants don't like winning." Oh, we're gonna see on that one. Giants must have been on the same strain Lynch was on during draft day. Ooh, Vlad does not like Daniel Jones. I can see that 100%.
Daniel Jones now has a lot to prove.
Oh yeah, the bar has been raised, and as a great song once said, "Yesterday's price is not today's price."
Mm.
His standard, his play standard, has gone from here to here. He's got to be that guy. He's got to be that guy for the Giants because the Giants paid him like he is that guy. Do we want to talk about Combine a little bit?
Go into it.
Okay.
We can talk.
So,
brush on it.
This is like the most minuscule news of the day, comparably. Not minuscule in the sense of the NFL itself, but minuscule in the sense of obviously it's not going to stack up to the Aaron Rodgers news and the Lamar Jackson news and the Daniel Jones news and the Saquon news. But the Combine's still very important. Looking at some of the standouts, and this is looking at more of a frame of the two New York teams, not really taking a wide lens outside quarterbacks. Anthony Richardson is a freak. He's a stud. Athletically, this dude broke, I think, the broad jump and vertical jump. Broke the broad jump record and the vertical jump record for quarterbacks. He ran a
4.43.
4.39, I'm pretty sure, right?
I had 4.43.
4.43. 4.43 in the 40.
Yeah.
Which is like I think the
third all time.
Third all time? I saw fourth, I guess.
I
guess those numbers got mixed up, but he's incredible. I think that he's not as big of a project as a lot of people say he is. He's the guy I'm willing to take the shot on because of the ceiling. CJ Stroud, I watching him, he's just a natural thrower of the football. I think, and this happens to a guy at quarterback in every single draft process. I think everyone's overthinking him. I think everyone's overthinking the athleticism part and all that. Is it important to be able to move around the pocket and make plays? Yes. But you need to be able to throw and process and do all that. And Stroud has been and is insanely good at doing both of those things. We got Vlad saying it's unfortunate that Richardson did well during the Combine. I was hoping the Vikings could have traded down and turned out 15 and stolen him. Vikings really need to find quarterback in the future. I think that's going to come next year. Next year's quarterback class a little bit deeper. I was on, and Toomey probably remembers me saying this, I was on the boat of Richardson late in the draft because I didn't think he would skyrocket to having some of the best odds for the number one pick, but I was wrong. If the Jets want Richardson, number one, something went very wrong with their pursuit of Rodgers and possibly Lamar. And number two, they probably traded a lot of draft capital to get him. Stroud looked great. Bryce Young, weighed in over 200 pounds, weighed in around measured in around like 5'10". I don't think his play weight's around 200. If it is, then I feel a little bit better about him. Long term, at least. Short term, I think he's the best guy right now. Short term, the most pro-ready, polished, played in Alabama, carried Alabama this year. I just have concerns because small quarterbacks are like, it's always like a concern in the back of my head where I'm like, I don't know. Like it's not that I don't. And it has nothing to do with his ability to play the position. It's more so durability, because as we've seen, Russell Wilson's been hurt. Kyler Murray's been hurt. Breeze has gotten hurt. These guys take hits and take more brunt of the hits. And it takes a little bit longer for them to sometimes get back to their full strength because of the way they're taking hits all the time. I do think Young's going to be the best guy right off the bat. I think Richardson and Stroud have the potential to be the best guys down the line. And Will Levis, I don't know how much of the combine you watched, Toom. Not sure if you watched it at all. I was underwhelmed by his throwing. I thought he had more of a, and I know he has a good arm, but I thought at times Stetson Bennett threw a better deep ball than him. That may sound like a hot
That's
take.
what I was saw. No, that's what I heard.
I like watching those quarterback drills, and that was the one group I had a chance to watch on my TV. Bennett's deep ball, and Stetson Bennett's like a late round quarterback. Like, he's not this guy, he's going round 2, round 3. Like, this is like a 4, 5, 6, 7 round type guy. Levis's deep ball concerned me a little bit. And I'm not saying, Levis is going to be a good quarterback, but that was a little bit concerning. His arm didn't pop off the screen like I thought it would, because you hear the comparisons of, he's like the Josh Allen mold, the big quarterback athletic mold, where Richardson was way closer to that. Levis reminded me more of like a, what would you say Levis reminded you of? Because I'm trying to think of a good comparison.
Well, from what I heard from what I saw, I thought his arm, I did hear that Bennett was chucking it better deep. I didn't get to see any of the other drills. But I thought he had the whole talk is just Levis has his cannon. And from what I'm hearing from you, it sounds like he does have a strong arm, but it's not what you predicted it to be.
Ironically, Levis, the things I didn't think he would do great at, he did great at. Okay. The anticipation passes, the sideline, you could see the zip on the ball in those spots. I just expected the deep passing to be a little bit better, versus Bennett didn't kill it with the out routes, the different passes in the middle of the field, but his deep passing was really good. Him being able to hitch up and fire it plays a role there. Not going to be able to hitch up as much in the NFL. Still did a very good job in the drills, regardless. So,
but if I had to compare back to what you're saying, Levis is someone. Could you say like he's not at that point, but maybe like a Lawrence or a Herbert? Like he's not anywhere comparable to them, but like if you had to do a hope,
like a dollar store version of.
There you go. Yes.
Yeah. Yes. Like that's a dollar store version of them.
Okay.
Yeah, so I definitely think like he's like a dollar store version of like the way Herbert was coming out. He's also older. Like I think he's already like 23, 24. So that makes him a little bit different in that regard as well. Other positions that really stood out to me: offensive tackles, Broderick Jones. Love him as a prospect. I loved him at Georgia. Haven't really watched too much film on him, but he's a guy that measurables wise, exactly what you're looking for in a bookend tackle. Peter Skoronski, he may not be the prototypical tackle, but we saw this with Rashawn Slater as well. If you have the talent, you're great. And Skoronski is a guy that you watch any of the games that he plays in, he stands out because nobody really gets by him. He's that anchor, and he's played all along the offensive line. So shifting back to the Jets for a little bit, especially with Dwayne Brown coming back, especially with some of those question marks, you could draft a guy like Broderick Jones to be that bookend tackle on the left or right side, and then have Becton Mitchell compete for that other spot. Or you can draft a guy like Peter Skoronski, who, in my opinion, not the same player, but very similar to a guy like Elijah Vera Tucker, where he has that versatility. He can play all the different positions on the O-line. And like what happened last year when different guys went down, you could have Skoronski and Tucker slide around to the different positions to where that offensive line still has a sense of continuity.
Does my question to you now is, does the draft, where am I looking for? Does the positions they draft switch with the quarterback news? If they get a guy like Rodgers, do you go all in on O-line, or do you find a piece in the defense with that first pick? Or are you just stuck in O-line first pick?
Well, it's a fantastic question. Before I get to that, at all positions, Tajay Spears, favorite running back, Julian Brents, defensive back, tight ends, a few choices. Team I like only as draft picks starting at round 3. Center from Ohio seems solid. Yeah, Tajay Spears did incredible. Julian Brents blew up the combine. That dude had an incredible day. I was going to actually touch on one of the tight ends, and this kind of brings me to your question as well. Obviously, you trade for Lamar, you're looking for different types of guys. I think, and this is a guy you follow. If you follow the draft, some of the different experts, different rumors, if the Jets had to give up the 2 first, I'm probably picking a guy like John Michael Schmitz, the center from Minnesota, in the 2nd round. I think from what I've read, the Jets have been linked to him a lot. If I have a guy like Lamar, I'm adding another receiver, whether it's a guy like Andre Yosevich from Princeton, whether it's a guy like Michael Wilson out of Stanford. Those are 2 guys I think that could be a round 2, round 3 type selection. I'm also probably beefing up the trenches a little bit more, and I'm going heavy in free agency on my secondary. Like I'm trying to fill as many spots in free agency if I sign Lamar. Like I'm trying to get a safety, I'm trying to get a linebacker, I'm trying to get this, because you're going to have to dilute your biggest needs to the draft, or you flip that. Maybe you get that safety in the draft, which I personally like the free agency class a bit more. Maybe you get that linebacker in the draft, which, you switch to Rodgers. I'm definitely thinking O-line. You probably still have that 1st round pick. Maybe that 3rd round pick, you're drafting a guy like a Jack Campbell if he's still there, although he tested really well. Maybe you trade up a little bit and get a guy like Darnell Washington, who he's probably my favorite tight end prospect. I think Michael Mayer is a better prospect, but I think Darnell Washington adds another offensive lineman, and he ran like a 4.6, and he's gigantic, and he has great hands, as he showed off with that one-handed catch at the combine. I'm very interested to see, and this is obviously a very preliminary kind of bouncing around talk because we covered a lot of other stuff. But as we progress, we are going to talk more about some of these prospects, because when free agency starts and we see what positions the Jets go after, we're going to know what positions they're going to focus on in the draft. So let's say, for example, they sign, and this is just a name, I don't know if this is realistic, they sign a guy like Jesse Bates as one of their main safeties. Okay, that needs probably off the board in the 1st round with a guy like Brian Branch. That narrows it down a little bit. Okay, let's say they sign a tackle in free agency. Okay, whoa, that changes things. What are they doing? Are they trading down now? Are they looking to get back to the back of the first, maybe pick a receiver now, maybe pick a linebacker there. Like, these are different type of things that happen where it's more of a wait and see approach, because you can talk about all the needs the Jets have. Edge, you're probably not drafting that high right now, but maybe that changes depending on who you sign. You're looking at O-line, you're looking at linebacker, you're looking at safety, you're looking at receiver. But the way those are slotted changes on what you do in free agency. So, very long-winded answer to your question.
Very good input, though.
But it's not simple. And I'm not going to just lie and say, oh, I know all these prospects by heart. But, just seeing the different testing scores and seeing some, and even like minimal highlights and minimal film of what these guys are, you get a sense of, okay, who fits, who doesn't. And we got a question
I was going to say
from Ted. I know this is a New York dominated show, but if Eagles stay at 10, which corner or defensive player could you see them having the biggest rookie impact? I think Christian Gonzalez, that's someone I've seen slotted to the Eagles a lot. I don't know if he makes it to 10, but the way he performed, he's an athletic freak. The Eagles love their athletic corners. He has the size, speed, agility. Replacing James Bradbury with a guy like Gonzalez, the pair next to Slay, I think that would make the Eagles an even scarier secondary, because now you have a guy that can run and move even better than Bradbury could.
Christian Gonzalez. Very nice.
Yeah. So, barring any other news, which we are going to summarize the franchise tags real quick. So, okay. So, to correct the earlier statement, they were all franchise tags given out were non-exclusive tags. So, the players that were tagged: Commanders defensive line Deron Payne, Jaguars tight end Evan Ingram, Cowboys running back Tony Pollard, Raiders running back Josh Jacobs, Ravens quarterback Lamar Jackson. I can't talk today. That's okay.
Josh Lamar.
And then Giants running back Saquon Barkley. Raiders, Ravens. That was a tongue twister, man. Good Lord. The only player that would even have a shot of getting the first round picks given up for him is Lamar Jackson. We know this. So, on top of that, the players that are slotted to hit free agency now include Dalton Schultz, Orlando Brown Jr., Jacoby Myers, Caleb McGarry, Draymond Jones, Tremaine Edmonds, Jamel Dean, James Bradbury, Jesse Bates, Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, Jordan Poyer. Just off the top of my head right there, Poyer, Gardner-Johnson, Bates, all targets I could see for the Jets. All would be huge additions to their secondary. Schultz, if he was a free agent 1 year earlier, would have been a target for the Jets. They now have Conklin, Uzama, and Ruckert all under contract. Orlando Brown, depending on the money, I would love to see the Jets to go after him. Would be a huge addition. And then if they're not priced out, I think Jacoby Myers would be great. I think he'd be a great wide receiver 3 for them. But we shall see. We shall see. And that brings us to the end of an insanely lengthy football talk. And we are necessarily going to be having our show next week, because we are going to be in the great state of Tennessee, in Nashville. But any news that breaks, stay tuned with us, because we will be going live on Instagram. I think, is that what we decided? Instagram?
You brought that up.
Okay. To put it simply, if news breaks, we'll be going live somewhere, and we will tweet out where to find that. So that's we got one more football question before we move on. If you were the Niners, would you sign Baker Mayfield or a cheaper vet? Baker's estimate around $8 million. We saw what Baker could do in McVay's system. I want to see what he can do in Shanahan's system as a backup. And considering the potential voodoo curse that it seems like the 49ers quarterbacks have over them, Baker could potentially get a shot to play and even increase his value even more. Also, the Niners are rumored to be interested in him. So it wouldn't exactly be a far cry if he did sign there.
No, I like it. Baker is he's been in a couple systems now. He's been around. It wouldn't be that bad. You need, as you've seen, they're definitely want a third guy in that system that they know can have little success because, just like you said, there's a injury bug in that QB room over there. Hopefully it gets fixed.
Yeah, so I think it's time to move on. And we're going to move on to basketball. Because there's some fun stuff going on. Basketball wise, man. The Knicks, I'm telling you, man, they're dangerous. They're a dangerous team.
They have what's the word? They've shut me up a little bit. I'll give them that. They've done a good job of doing that. They just gotta keep rolling, keep this momentum going. A lot of big wins during this win streak. 2 against the Celtics, and that's proof right there that they have what it takes. That was without Brunson too. The last win in a double OT.
Emmanuel Quickly, man, that he in their last game, Quickly had 38 points, 7 assists, 8 rebounds in 55 minutes.
Yeah. Without Brunson, who's Brunson's proved to be, hey, he's becoming a star point guard.
And the crazy part is, too, RJ Barrett had a double-double in 50 minutes, 29 points, 11 rebounds.
That's what you love to see. I mean, if I saw Randall hit some shots that I wouldn't even expect Randall to be taking.
Yeah, so you could say that.
Yeah.
But yeah, looking at their upcoming schedule, they got a little bit of a not hard, like easier stretch, but not as gauntletly as it's been. They got the Hornets and then the Kings, Clippers, Lakers, Blazers, Nuggets, followed by the Timberwolves, Heat, and Magic. So their schedule eases up a little bit, and considering that in their last, I mean, they've won their last 9, but they've defeated the Celtics, the Heat, the Nets, the Celtics, the Pelicans. You know, they're getting battle tested. They're only a game and a half behind the Cavs for the 4 seed. They're only 4 games out from Philly. You know, they're creating a little bit of separation between themselves and Brooklyn. They have a 2-game lead on them for the 6 seed and a 4-game lead on the Heat at the 7 seed. But it brings me back to the point of, look at what Mitchell Robinson has done. Quickly has stepped up beyond my wildest dreams. Grimes, although he's not scoring as consistently as I want him to, he is contributing to a point where, you know, his defense is improving and he's starting to hit some of those threes that he wasn't hitting earlier in the year. RJ's starting to figure it out a little bit more, albeit he is still a bit of a roller coaster. And you got the stabilizing presence of Randall and Brunson. And it brings me back to a previous conversation we had, right? About the East as a whole. The Bucks, Celtics, and Sixers are probably the 3 most dangerous teams in that conference. The Celtics have shown they have glaring weaknesses. They are not impervious. They're not this team that, they're just going to run through the East. Not going to happen. The Sixers have shown they've had flaws, but I would argue they're probably the most talented team out of that bunch. Whereas the Celtics, having the Tatum-Brown combination, could be that, but they ultimately aren't all the time. And then Milwaukee is just the wild card because you never know how Giannis is going to be in terms of carrying that team. Alpha Sports asks, who's the Jets offensive coordinator? It's Nathaniel Hackett. Nathaniel Hackett is the Jets offensive coordinator. But and the Cavs are a very talented team, but like the Knicks have beat all of these teams, or they've competed down to the wire with all of these teams, both the teams in front and behind them. So, like, that's where I arrive at the point where they're firmly entrenched in, what they are in that conference. They're firmly entrenched in the playoff conversation. And it's very interesting to see how they're playing, because I'm very excited to see where it goes, because they're not going to win every game for the rest of the year. They are going to lose again. But the fact that their camaraderie is sky high, the Josh Hart addition and Mitchell Robinson's return have been so crucial. I'm excited to see where it ends up, because I think this is a great stepping stone for where the Knicks are going next.
No, that's a great point right there. There's, I think you can lock it in right now. They are going to have a pretty high seed in this playoff run. I think you're going to hope for more, but they could easily slip into the 4. Easily slip into the 4. They can easily slip into the 3. Not easily, but it's not far-fetched for them to get that 3 spot. So this would be a great run. And if I'm a team in the East, I don't want to play the Knicks right now. There's a lot of firepower right now that they've shown. And if they keep this streak going, this stretch of good basketball, that's all you want going to the playoffs. As we say in every sport, hot team, you find them at the right time in the playoffs, they can cause a lot of havoc. And the Knicks are shaping up like that team in the East right now, which is good for you, man. That's awesome to see. The Knicks, I was looking the other day, was it 1973? 1973. Bill Bradley and I got to meet him. It's funny, Bill Bradley. But besides the point, long time ago.
I'm pretty sure he was a senator too.
He was, yeah.
Yeah.
New Jersey senator, I think. He had a small role in that Knicks team, but he was there way back in the day, way before our time.
Yeah. Might be before my I mean, yeah, that's before my dad's time too.
Funny stuff. But no, it's a good sign for the Knicks. And I guess the other team too, Brooklyn, who I've just been kind of doubting this whole time. Like, they're going to fall off. Just wait. They're going to fall off. And they keep proving that they can win these big games against good teams.
Yeah, the East, man, it's wide open. You got the 5-6 New York teams. They're just grinding. It's very interesting. Oh, we had some updates on an update on the Daniel Jones contract. So he's going to be taking home $82 million over the first 2 years of his 4-year, $160 million deal. This is according to Albert Breer of Sports Illustrated. So the base of his first 2 years of his deal beat the 3-year base of Geno Smith's deal.
I know Geno's making 52 in 1 year, I think. Yeah. Stacking
every time.
Yep.
Like it's like clockwork. Alpha Sports said the Jets need to sign Jimmy G. At least they'll go to the playoffs. It's never been about Jimmy G's talent for me. It's the health. He gets hurt. You got Mike White or Zach Wilson starting big games. You don't want that. And he says, what you don't want to do is draft a quarterback and Rodgers sign, have the guy sitting on the bench. Well, if you get Rodgers, you're not drafting a quarterback. The only way you're drafting a quarterback, in my eyes at least, I'm obviously not in the front office. I'm not running a draft, but only way I'm drafting a quarterback is if I miss on those guys. But pivoting back to our basketball conversation, Brooklyn is that like I said to you, Brooklyn is back to their scrappy, annoying selves they were before they got KD and Kyrie. I mean, they beat the Hornets on Sunday, and they also beat Boston on Friday, March 3rd. Cam Thomas did not score in that game, but Mikal Bridges is just playing out of his mind.
Yeah.
Out of body experience, 38, 10, and 4 in that game. Cam Johnson also had 20, and Dorian Finney-Smith also had 17, and Dinwiddie had 17. They've become that group effort team, which is kind of hilarious considering where they were at the beginning of the year, but they're back to we don't have a single star. We're just a good team. Very similar to the Knicks. And like I've said, I think arguably the Knicks have the higher upper echelon talent, but Brooklyn probably has more depth. They're both very good teams in this East. And ultimately, and I think this is the most important part that can't be ignored, they are two teams that are going to annoy the ever-living you-know-what out of every team in that conference. They're going to pester the Celtics, the Bucks, the 76ers, the Cavs, the Heat, whoever it is that they play. Those teams are not going to like playing the Knicks or the Nets.
No. They're seems like a bunch of grinders, and they're just going to chip away at you. They're going to make you work. Again, you got a team that I still think they're at the mindset of like, we got nothing to lose. No one's expecting anything from us. And if you give these guys that firepower, they'll throw. I'm not saying they're going to make any noise in the East, big noise. Like, I don't think if they stick at a 6-7, I don't see them upsetting a 1 or 2 or even a 3, but they can make it happen, and they'll really hurt these teams. Not hurt them, but they'll give them some work that a team like a Celtic or a Sixer in the playoffs didn't expect they would find in the first round of a playoff matchup.
Yeah, and I think that I think that, and this is kind of pivoting more from the Knicks Nets, but not really. The Sixers are kind of the team I have the eye on, in the sense of I think they have the most to lose potentially in the playoffs, because they're the team where, and you could argue Boston, Jaylen Brown, I'm pretty sure is a free agent coming up, if I am correct. But the weird James Harden going back to Houston rumor kind of caught my attention. I think it was last week, to the point where I forget who I was talking to with this, but it's very interesting, because if Harden leaves and does go back to Houston, which first of all would be just enormous for the Rockets and where they're at, just development of young guys contending, potentially getting Victor and Harden in the same offseason. Does Embiid request a trade out of Philly? And that might be like a sacrilegious question, but I think it's fair to ask, because this would have been a guy that would have saw Jimmy Butler lose that team that they were building, because the team picked Ben Simmons over Butler, have to rebuild from the ground, not ground up, rebuild, get Harden, and get back to that spot, only to see Harden leave. How much longer does Embiid want to stay? Because the NBA is fickle like that. And, ironically enough, the Knicks GM was Embiid's agent. And it's like, is that a 1-to-1? Is that something that's like definitely happening? You never know. But it's something to keep in mind, because I think I've seen that rumor floated before. Nothing to a crazy extent, but you've seen Embiid, Knicks question mark to like, could this possibly happen? And Knicks fans are like that with every player, as I have seen and as I have been before. But I wanted to pose that question to you, because I think if the Knicks added a guy like Embiid, they could go from, a tough out to one of the best teams in the NBA.
No, I just to start for the Harden, from what I've been seeing, it's like, it's weird if people say like it's a lock that he's gone, but it's what, from league sources and just look at stuff, it seems like Harden's going back to Houston. And I agree with their point as well. What's Embiid going to want to do in Philly by himself? If he can't win with these stars in Philly, and he's getting up there in years, no offense, it's harder for a center to stay healthy too. We've seen great centers in the league reach a certain age and just collapse.
Dwight Howard.
DeMarcus Cousins.
Exactly.
A guy who's, how old is he? I'm guessing late 20s.
Let me pull that up.
But while you're looking that up, I mean, no, it would be smart for him to get out of there probably. And I don't think the Sixers, he gave the Sixers everything he could. He's given them.
Joel Embiid is 28 years old.
He's given them MVP basketball for the past however many seasons. and they haven't gone anywhere. And you can't put the blame on him, but he seems like a guy that could easily just be like, all right. And if you're a Knicks fan, that'd be awesome for you. But wherever he goes, he's still a top two center in the league. You can make a case for one over Jokic, even though Jokic has been the back-to-back MVP. So that'd be awesome to see for a guy. It sucks for Sixers fans, but if it gets to the point where Harden is gone, and who else is he going to play with? He's going to want to play with another superstar. There's no way a center's going to win by himself. Especially a guy who gets hurt too often. Or often, not crazy hurt, but like not like Anthony Davis hurt. But he's got injuries.
Exactly, and it's not like the Knicks are the only option. Like like Miami definitely would be in the running. Him and Butler pairing back up. I mean, you could argue OKC to an extent, having all those picks and young guys. You know, maybe Brooklyn jumps back in the superstar disco. Like it's not like it's the Knicks or bust in that scenario. Like there would be so many teams ready to pounce. I mean, you could argue Memphis, but we'll get to that in a second. But yeah, it's a question I wanted to pose. It's a question I wanted to ask about a potential scenario because it's not as far-fetched Embiid leaving as I feel like it once was.
No, I agree with you on that. I think he'd be, I won't say stupid to stay, but because I like a guy who stays with a team, a loyal player. But no, it'd be smarter for him if he wants to chase a ring for sure.
Yeah, and now we're gonna look at the Western Conference because the Lakers are a play-in team now, Toomey.
There's a four-way tie going on.
Congrats. Congrats. Yeah. You guys aren't in the cellar anymore.
Nope.
But in all seriousness, these standings are kind of ridiculous.
Still, every week.
You got the 13 seed, a half game behind every team slotted from 12 to 9. You have every team from 9 to 12 only 2 games behind the 8 and 7 seed, 3.5 behind the 6 seed, 3 behind the 5 seed, and 5 behind the 4 seed.
It's the Wild Wild West.
Yeah, and the Nuggets just opening up the conference lead, just almost at 10 games. And that brings us, I just want to have a quick discussion before we jump onto a little bit of hockey and then baseball prediction stuff that I wanted to get to. Ja Morant, man, I always have this thing, and it's a very probably overly compassionate way of looking at things, but I just always feel like bad when, you know, the mental health stuff is like fully put on display, and how certain guys like struggle, and it seems like no one's like in that organization or in that person's circle is like stepping up to help them. And it's like, you don't know the situation of people. You don't know what's actually going on. But with that whole situation, if you read up on the news, you know what he's been doing. I do think a part of it is obviously the person and like what their actions are. But I've learned that a lot of it's also, you know, the people you're surrounding yourself with, the people that are coming to you for X, Y, and Z, the people that are giving you the advice. Because, you know, the saying goes, you're only as you are the person that you surround yourself with. You are who you surround yourself with. And I think my viewpoint as the whole situation's developed, there is an interview in the past with Ja did with Taylor Rooks about how he's dealt with a lot of mental health struggles in the past and how he's dealt with these different types of things. And I think at the end of the day, even if even if the person isn't being receptive to what they're being told, it's like you just need to. I feel like the people around him just need to make sure, like, hey, like, are you in the right headspace? Are you like good with this, good with that, and not just be like an amplifier in that sense. I'm being very like vague on purpose, but it's just like I truly, I don't know. I truly feel for him, because I think that I don't feel for him for the actions that he did, because the actions I disagree with, but I feel for him because if he truly doesn't have that support system around him that's truly looking out for his best interest, then he's already playing at a disadvantage. And you don't know the full story of that, and we've seen that with all different types of athletes. We've seen that with baseball players, football players, basketball players, hockey players. Seen it with UFC fighters, golfers. Like, no matter where you come from, who you are, what you are, if you're making that type of money, people are going to act like they want to be around you just to be around you because you have that fame or that money or that popularity. So I think at the end of the day, that's like the most important thing to look at, because it's tough. It's very tough. And so many things in this world, it's not simple enough, and things aren't simple enough to just look at, oh, it's this or it's that. There's a lot of gray area when it comes to it.
No, I do agree with you that one, I wouldn't make any criticisms or comments on something like this. When it comes down, you said it most. There's obviously something going on, and hopefully he finds the help he needs. Like you said before, even in any world, if you get a lot of money, and I think Jalen Rose spoke well about this discussion. If you go listen to that after, he really puts it into a good perspective. Hope he finds the help he needs. And yeah, if you surround yourself with people who aren't really helping you or just giving you the green light to do whatever you want, it goes bad. And we've seen it. You talked about sports. We see it in everything, in all aspects of life. Hopefully he can find, yeah, I see that. It sounds like you're not giving him responsibility. There's a lot that goes into it that I have no idea of. So that's why I don't want to make any case of it. Just hopefully he figures it out and someone does, and he can get back to doing what he does best. But yeah, I don't really have much more to say on it. I truly don't.
Yeah, and it's like, I don't like Ted, I get what you're saying, like 100%, but it's like I'm giving, like, he has full responsibility for his actions, but the path that leads up to those actions, it's, you don't know what's going on. You don't know what's leading to that. You don't know if the people around him are encouraging it. You don't know if the people around him are, amplifying certain things that, maybe he's trying to work on and just are being ignored by people around him. There's so many things that go into it where it's one way, and I'm not saying it's the wrong way. It's one way to just look at the action of the person and say if it's right or wrong. And in this case, he made some very wrong decisions completely. And honestly, he's going to face the ramifications of that, and rightfully so. But at the same time, there's always a lead up to the action. There's always the lead up to why a person does something, to where that's a lot of where that gray area I talked about comes into play. A lot of where that different type of, okay, what led to this? Is this person struggling with that? Is there a situation with a family member that's leading to him feeling like that? Like, there's a lot of different stuff like that. But it ultimately leads to that decision where the person is ultimately responsible for that action. And I think and they're not, and don't get me wrong, they're not acceptable actions in any sense, and I will never defend those actions. But there is, there is a level of, okay, what led to this?
It is crazy to see all the foreshadowing of what occurred during the season that led up to this point, with all the rumors and stuff around him this season and stuff. So hopefully it turns out for the best.
Yeah, exactly. So I think we're going to jump off that. I think that was a decent discussion with that. I appreciate the comments because show wouldn't be anything without the comments, and I truly feel that. You want to jump into hockey talk and then do some baseball predictions to end the show?
I did want to say one thing real fast just before we jumped on it. There's one thing we did miss. Take a minute out of your time for this.
Mm-hmm.
Tom Brady, what's up with that? Have you seen that?
I think it's all smoke.
Fugazi?
Yeah, I don't think he wants to be like Brett Favre. Like, I'll be real. I don't think now. I've been completely wrong on this before. I don't think he's the guy that wants to be, oh, I retired. Just kidding. I retired. Because it's like, at the end of the day, right? Brady is a guy, and we know this, that cares about his legacy. He cares about it. That legacy's tarnished if you keep saying you're retiring, having all this stuff done for you, and then, oh, I'm back. Because if you think about it, right, our generation, what do we remember about Brett Favre besides the not great stuff he's done recently? What do we remember about Brett Favre? The guy that always retired and come back. We don't remember him as one of the best quarterbacks to grace a football field. Do you remember that he played for the Jets, retired, came back for the Vikings, did well, and retired?
Yeah.
He was in the media every year, threatening, like, oh, I don't know if I'm coming back. I don't know. And it's like, oh, Brett Favre, like, I could be wrong. Brady could be an attention, want that attention, want that spotlight. The competitive clock goes off, and it's, I need to be on a football field. But you also, the dude's almost 50 years old.
Yeah, he's getting there. I just want to hear your input on that. We can jump into hockey.
Where do you stand on it?
Nothing yet. There's so much going on. It's too early. I think. I don't know. I don't know why he would come back. He's engraved himself as like the GOAT. I don't know why he would. He just misses it. I don't know. Maybe he's bored. But we'll find out when it happens.
Doesn't want to be around his children anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
Hockey wise, what are we looking like here?
Oof. It's the race keeps getting tighter and tighter. I guess if you jump off, I got the numbers right here just to look at it. Devils, Hurricanes, Rangers, that's what we're talking about. The race in the Metro. Hurricanes are at 90 points at 61 games. Devils are at 88 points at 62 games. And the Rangers are at 79 points at 63 games. So they're all in that range of 19, 20, 21 games left. When it comes down to it, I think there's going to be a flip still. I think the Devils could pass. I don't see the Rangers making that much headway to pass.
They would have to go on a ridiculous
a crazy run. I mean, I have their last 10 here. Devils are 7-2-1, Hurricanes 7-3-0, and then Rangers 4-5-1. So Rangers have had a little bit of a spill lately, which I haven't noticed. It's really fell under the radar.
It's honestly, I was kind of expecting it considering all the trades.
Yeah,
they kind of needed to figure out, the different lines and all that. And we talked about it last week where the Rangers need to figure out the chemistry so they're full go and full ready to explode into the playoffs. If you're worrying about different things, the talent's going to carry you enough in these games to where you're going to win enough to obviously be a playoff team. But at the same time, I don't think you're catching the Hurricanes or the Devils at this point.
Yeah, so that just leaves the Rangers with that with the Metro 2 spot, which would play them have a not home field advantage or home ice advantage for the playoffs, but they're a good team. They'll come from it. I have the last 5. Devils are 4-1, Hurricanes 3-2-0, Rangers 2-3-0, and I just threw the Bruins in here just because the Bruins are on pace to have the greatest season of all time, which is insane to see and watch.
They have 103 points on our 10-game winning streak. Good Lord.
And if you're seeing it right now, the goal differentials,
the
second best in the league is the Hurricanes, and they have almost a plus 50 better goal differential.
Yeah. So to put that like with actual numbers, the Bruins are 49-8-5 with 103 points. They have scored 237 goals and given up 132. That gives them a differential of 105. The next best team, as Toomey says, the Hurricanes, at 57 for their goal differential. Absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah. I guess the only news too, we got the Devils fans got to see Timo for the first time against Coyotes. Luckily, they pulled off the win. He had their first goal of the game, so that was cool to get him right into the mix. Wish they would have played that a little better, but they're on tonight against a good Maple Leafs team. So a little early playoffs before the playoffs. Hopefully the Rock is pumping, and they pulled out. I got invited to the game tonight too. Can't keep missing these games, man.
Yeah,
can't keep missing these games.
We got the Rangers play Thursday night. They play the Canadiens. They then have the Sabres, the Penguins, Capitals, Penguins, Predators, Hurricanes. It's an interesting stretch. It's nothing over the top, but there are some tough opponents in that.
But yeah, this is the time of the season where teams like Devils, Rangers, who made new acquisitions, try and fix those lines up, see what's going to be the best for come playoff time. And safe to say, all three of those teams that we've been talking about are absolutely going to be in the playoffs. It just comes down to who's going to jump into those last two wildcard spots and have to play either probably the greatest team of all time, these Bruins in the regular season, or a Hurricanes or Devils team.
Yeah, so that's a great hockey recap, and I think it's time to get into the MLB futures.
Actually, I'm sorry, I did want to say one more thing.
Oh,
there was
one more
a comment way previously. It was Jeff was talking about Rangers in 5 versus the Devils. No chance. Not happening. If Jeff's still here listening, not a chance. Give him at least 7 for the Rangers to have a chance.
I'd say it could go Rangers or Devils in 6.
I still hope that they don't play each other in the first round. Hopefully,
I want that to be like a second round.
Yeah, right.
So give that to me like the second round.
It can't be the semis, so it's got to be first or second round. Hopefully, it's the second.
That would be great. But we'll be back with more hockey in what, probably 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
Yeah. So a lot more to talk about then. We're going to talk about futures today. We're going to go with talking about the NL West and the AL West. We talked about the Central last week. We're going to talk about the West this week, and then we will talk about the East next week, which that'll be a fun 2 weeks actually.
2 weeks.
Which that'll basically lead us right into essentially baseball season. So AL West, there's really 2 options I'm looking for with this. But to read off the odds for you, Astros -200, Mariners +360, Angels +700, Rangers +1,000, and you're going to love this. The Oakland A's +25,000. Shows how much Vegas values the Oakland Athletics roster. I'm gonna lean towards the Mariners here solely because I think they are a great roster, and more specifically in terms of a sports bet, I like their odds better. I like getting more money in on the plus than the minus. It's betting on the Astros it's betting on the Astros, but
yeah.
I enjoy that +350 or +360 number. I do think that's a nice spot where if you want to put some money on there, that's your second best option, because I think those odds could move. I do think those odds could move before the start of the season. If you want to be risky and put on LA, I guess I wouldn't do that, but I'm really looking at Seattle there.
I'm surprised at those odds that Angels have better odds than the Rangers. That's a little bit of a shock to me. Still, I don't think the Rangers or Angels are good teams at all, but
I don't think Texas has the lineup depth. That's the thing.
No,
I don't think Anaheim does either.
No. And my question, are you saying you think the Mariners are going to win the AL West?
That is, we haven't done our full predictions.
Okay.
Yes, I do think they are going to win the AL West.
Interesting.
Hey, got to go on a limb. You can't play it
Right.
safe all the time.
No, exactly.
So NL West, you got the Dodgers at -130. You got the Padres at +130. The Giants at +1100. The Diamondbacks at +4000. The Rockies at +15,000. I'm gonna preface this. I'm not picking them in this scenario. I'm so excited to watch this Diamondbacks team. There's so much young talent. They got even more in the trade where they traded Dalton Varsho to Toronto. They got Toronto's big catching prospect. They got a few other good, nice players. They're a team I think in a year or two could be competing for a division, or if not division, a playoff spot. I love Corbin Carroll, Alec Thomas. They're the young talent in Arizona really has my attention. The Giants, I just think they're the definition of mid right now. They're just a mid roster that doesn't really have that star power. They tried to get it with Judge and Correa. They failed. Well, they failed with Judge. Correa, we know what happened there. And then that leaves us with the Dodgers and Padres. Dodgers at the favorite of -130. Padres +130. I'm going to lean Padres here. I think the Padres have way more star talent. This might be the lull for the Dodgers before they come back up with going hard after Shohei and actually going over the luxury taxes. This was the year that they decided to dip under it. So I am excited to see what San Diego does. I went with the plus odds for both teams. I went with the Padres and the Mariners. Toomey, what do you think about the NL?
I like it. When it comes to the NL, again, not a bad take to have the Padres over the Dodgers. I mean, the Dodgers had a historic season too that we saw in the regular season. But no, again, they lost a couple guys that were important. How long they can keep this pace up of keeping the top dogs in the NL, that's also true. So it's a good case. I'm not against you with the Padres there at all. I like it.
And that brings us to the end of our show. Gotta love closing out the show with bets, right?
Oh, yeah.
So thank you guys for joining us on another great edition of the show. We will not be back next week because we will be in Nashville together. Should be a lot of fun. But NFL free agency will be starting while we're down there. The Lamar Jackson saga should be not wrapping up, but probably hitting its stride while we're down there. So if any news breaks, anything occurs while we are in there, while we will not have our show, we will break that news to you, whether it's on Instagram or Twitter or a different sort of platform. We'll let you guys know on our social media platforms, wherever we decide to do that. But yeah, it's going to be a very exciting few weeks. We will be back not next week, but the week after. Going to have a lot to talk about. Free agency signings for the Jets and Giants, where they go in the rest of free agency, and potentially the draft. The MLB season will be shaping up to start. I'll be giving my full division winner predictions because at that point we'll be close enough that I can give you my East predictions and just my division winner predictions. And the race for the playoffs is going to be on in the NHL and NBA. So we got a lot to talk about. I'm excited. Toomey, any closing remarks?
Let's go Devils. Go Devils.
For myself and Ryan, Jay, Toomey, the consummate Devils fan of this program, thank you guys for joining us on another great episode. It's been real. It's been fun. It's been real fun. We'll catch you next time.
Come on, Nashville.